Hello, my name is Mara Linsky-Deegan, and I am an Associate Curator and Registrar here at the Charles H. McNider Art Museum in Mason City, Iowa. And today we're going to talk a little bit about this piece right here and about the person who created it, and his name is Jim Dine. Jim Dine was born in 1935 in Cincinnati, Ohio. Studied for a little bit at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts School and also the University of Cincinnati. So in 1953, he started taking evening classes at the Art Institute of Cincinnati. And then he, in 1957, got his Bachelor of Fine Arts from the University of Ohio. In 1958, Jim Dine moved to New York City. He wanted to pursue his art career. And one of the first things he did was he got involved with a group of people who now we would call performance artists. But back then, they really didn't have a term for people who created art, but also did kind of like a theatrical performance as part of it. And so what that group would call themselves and what they created was a happening. So they would invite people to come to usually a studio space or sometimes a gallery. And they would, all the spectators would come in along with the artists, and the artists would kind of put on a show, almost like a play, but it would also have art elements in it, in that sometimes they would actually create paintings and other artworks along with sometimes musical performances and sometimes theatrical performances, again, like a play. And as part of these happenings, the audience would get involved too. So it was kind of like a whole big art experience. And that's something that Jim Dine was definitely a part of. And he kind of liked that and thought it was fun, but he decided that he really wanted to focus on creating something that is substantial, which means that something you could put your hands on and take with you and possibly purchase and buy and take to your home. So he decided he was going to start doing some paintings. So he didn't want to do like a traditional painting, which was just like a canvas with some paint on it. He did that, but then he decided, kind of like a happening has a lot of different parts to it, he decided he was going to add some collage parts to his paintings. And in the beginning, he really did it simply. He would paint something and then find objects around, and he would stick them onto the canvas, sometimes nailing them or taping them or stapling them right to the canvas. And when I mean objects like socks, shoes, sometimes tools. He would stick them right on there with his painting, and sometimes they had something to do with one another, the subject of the painting and the thing he stuck on, and sometimes they didn't. So he continued on with these collage paintings for a while, and in 1962, he was a part of a group exhibition of art that was called New Paintings of Common Objects. And this show was considered the first time that pop art was all brought together. And when I talk about pop art, we're talking about a kind of art that really has to do a lot with commercialism, and like commercials that you'd see in magazines or on TV. So a lot of pop artists like to recreate everyday things. Things like soup cans and everyday objects, maybe a bar of soap or a kind of candy or a cake or anything you find that almost looks like an advertisement for that product, the soup or the cake or the candy. So pop artists like to really recreate that kind of thing. Now, Jim Dine is sometimes associated with pop artists because, again, he uses kind of everyday objects sometimes as subject matters. He also uses pretty bright colors, and a lot of pop artists did that too. And he's also pretty representational, which is a big way of saying he makes stuff that looks like stuff. So his pieces, like with this one here, you can see they're hearts, right? It's not abstract, which doesn't sometimes look like anything. It has a subject matter to it. But Jim Dine decided, I don't really think I am a pop artist because I'm not focused on making things look like commercial pieces. I want things to look like what they look like. But another thing he did that did kind of go along with pop artists is that he would pick one or two subjects and focus on them and kind of sometimes do them over and over again. Some pop artists like to recreate food. And some like to recreate famous people, like pictures of famous people. And Jim Dine really liked to focus on hearts, bathrobes, and also tools. And a lot of the pieces you'll see by him, not all, but a lot of them will have one of those three things in them. So I said a little bit earlier that his kind of beginning works with 2D arts, with paintings. He would paint and then kind of tape or glue or affix something else to the canvas. That's actually kind of the case with this piece right here. Now, when you look at it from kind of far away, it looks like 6 hearts on a white piece of paper, which it is. But if you get up a little bit closer, and I'll move this one maybe so the camera can kind of get in there, you can see that the hearts are actually not a part of the back paper that has the numbers on it. They actually are collaged on there, which I think is kind of cool. And I bet sometime when you've been doing art before, you've done collage. And the simple way to do collage a lot of times is to cut out pieces of paper from the newspaper or a magazine and glue them onto another piece of paper. Now, in his collage, he actually took paper that he had printed before and cut hearts out of them. And so he would take this one right here, number 6. You can see it has a blue pattern on there. Well, he would have had a big piece of paper with that blue pattern all over it, and he would have cut out a bunch of hearts. And then he would have glued them on, or stuck them on, to a bunch of different paper that had these numbers on them. And he has, you can see right here, he's signed the piece, but right here there's a number, 66 of 85. That means there's 85 other works that look pretty similar to this one. Now, they might not look exactly the same, because each heart might look a little bit different. Just like if you were doing a collage, not every piece that you're going to glue on there is going to look exactly the same as the piece next to it. But there are 85 other ones that look pretty similar to this. But I think it's kind of cool that he kept doing collage even though he wasn't doing painting anymore, he was using paper. It was actually probably a little bit easier, because it's easier to stick paper to paper than it is to stick something like a shoe to a canvas. So that is one of the cool things about this piece, though. It's a little bit unique in our print collection. We have some other art prints in this whole gallery that look like this, but this is the only one that has a collage element to it, which is pretty neat. Jim Dine is a working artist. He right now is still alive and working, and he splits his time between New York City and Vermont.